Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. This is Times Radio Early Breakfast.
5:18, James Kitchen with you this morning in for Rosie Wright. Now it's time to go through the morning's papers. Joining us to do that is the barrister and broadcaster Andrew Eborn. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, James. Always a pleasure to join you.
Thank you. Well, likewise. Let's start with the front pages that are really, dominating all the newspapers. Yes. There's one story in town, really, the continued fallout from the BBC saga. Now, Donald Trump asking the BBC, demanding the BBC apologises, or he'll sue them for $1 billion. How do you think the BBC should respond?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? And Trump has a huge history of suing broadcasters for various bits and pieces. He had a claim against ABC in March 2024 for defamation. He originally asked for billions again in that sort of case and ended up settling for 15 million. CBS also news they were sued in October 2024 for 10 billion, which was increased to 20 billion. They also settled for 16. And CNN, there was an action there as well. They lost that one. Trump lost that one. He is appealing. Basically what it is Trump uses his lawyers, if you like, to basically approach broadcasters in the appropriate sort of way. And the BBC itself has got all sorts of problems recently. I always sort of say that trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. They've had the Huw Edwards scandal. Obviously, they had the problem about the Glastonbury coverage and also the Gaza, Israel, Hamas coverage as well, and accusations of bias. And as you know, I help produce and also present the RTS Podcast, Royal Television Society London. And I was interviewing Tim Davie fairly recently about these key issues about trust and so on and so forth. And he was sort of saying that they're doing an enormous amount internally, basically, and he's urging journalists to stick to the standards but report without fear or favour. Well, clearly what's happened in this case is they haven't done it right. This appalling edit to give the impression that Trump was calling for action in this way is not just an error of judgment, those sort of dismissing it, if you like, and it's a major error of judgment which has given rise to this 1 billion, and it's not just 1 billion. He says it'd be at least 1 billion suit if they don't comply and grovel a bit more than they currently are.
Well, the BBC is accused of playing dead when it faces criticism, hoping the problem fades away. But often, and well, certainly in this case, it didn't. Are you confident the corporation will learn from this episode?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Tim Davie said in the interview when I was talking to him that basically it's the most thankless job in town. They basically are always going to get criticism. Will they learn? I can guarantee there will be more examples. Every time, and I quoted a number of the examples where the BBC has had those sort of issues, they say, well, is that it? Then more and more will resurface. It's a huge corporation. But at a time when people are discussing the BBC's future and how it's going to be financed, obviously this is becoming front and centre. The question about this 1 billion, and I say at least those are the words that they use. It's the lawyer is using that in the letter, and it's published there. It's available for everybody. They say that if they don't basically issue this huge apology, they will file legal action for no less than 1 billion in damages. No less than 1 billion in damages. I think you've got to work out where would that money come from, and that would be crippling to the BBC on that sort of basis. They've got to work out how they can make a suitable apology to Trump and do that pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, there are suggestions that a future Director General should come from a journalistic background. What do you think of that? To ensure
I think Tim Davie, I think Tim Davie's been a fantastic in his post. He's achieved an awful lot, and you've got to ask. And similarly with the head of news, they're a great corporation. They've got great things, but they are front and centre, and they are head. The buck stops with them, so their heads roll. But certainly, what I always say that the best sunlight is the best disinfectant. We need transparency. We need to work out how did this happen, and we need, as I say, to restore that trust because trust is at an all-time low. And you can only do that by rebuilding the confidence of the general public in the BBC and around the world. It is a phenomenal brand of which we should be rightly proud, but there are these issues.
Well, talking of trust being at an all-time low, let's move on to the Daily Mail and a story regarding ministers' plans to solve the jail crisis, which is to move women out to make way for men. So this is ahead of David Lammy's grilling in the Commons later. The Mail's revealed tens of millions of pounds are to be spent on moving hundreds of female criminals out of prisons. And this is documents that were accidentally released by the MOJ, the Ministry of Justice. It does beg the question, where are the female prisoners going?
Well, exactly. Well, they sort of give a hint as to where it is. I always love these phrases, James, when they say accidentally released. I mean, how on earth did that happen? It's outrageous, isn't it? What it says is going to cost an initial 68 million and then a further 47 million a year to divert these women offenders out of jail. Another initiative would see these female offenders placed in a sort of residential centre instead of jail. Mm-hmm. You're asking where they might go. Well, this is a residential centre, and that would cost about 60,000 to 100,000 a year per head, as opposed to what it currently costs in prison, which is £37,000 a year. Now, as you know, my background's as a lawyer, and the key about any sort of sentencing is it's partly about reinvigorating and sort of reintegrating, if you like, people into society. It's the punishment and also supposed to be a deterrent. Well, it should be about the crime rather than the sex of the offender, which determines this. So I think we need to basically have a little bit more as to what's happening on that sort of basis. But at the moment, our prisons are horrendously overcrowded. And as a result, I was looking at the statistics just before coming on your brilliant programme. It's seen about 38,000 criminals have been let out of prison early by the government simply because it's overcrowding. So it's not, is it right to release them now? We simply just don't have the room.
And there's still a crisis. And we'll be speaking with the former Chief Inspector of Prisons later on in the programme, ahead of that appearance by David Lammy. Dominic's been in touch on the text. He says he wants to see humility and self-examination, which he says would do David Lammy a lot of good. OK, let's move on to The Guardian now. A story about the health service, about NHS in the community. Health leaders, they're warning St George's flags are creating no-go zones for NHS staff. So this is off the back of a report, isn't it, Andrew?
Yes, absolutely. And isn't it a shame that symbols of pride are morphing into these tools of intimidation? As the DHSC spokesman said, there's no place for intimidation, racism or abuse in our country or our NHS. And basically, they do, however, point out that flags represent our history, our heritage and our values, and they're symbols of our nation and belong to all of us, not just some of us. So we've got to ask, well, why? Why are people feeling intimidated by these flags? And look at that as an issue, because it's not the flag itself, it's maybe the flag waver which you need to look at. But the majority of people are rightly proud of our nation and our heritage, and we need to look at that sort of side. So it's not intimidation, it should be pride. And I think there's an education that needs to happen, including through us in the media.
Well, it comes after Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, said last week that he was shocked by what he called an ugly comeback of 1970s and 1980s style racism towards staff. There are also suggestions that this is linked with frustration with long waits, and patients are taking their anger out on staff who are coming to their homes in the community rather than indeed the organisation as a whole. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's revert back to the Times now. A small reprieve for the former Prince Andrew in the form of a hyphen. So this is all to do with the Mountbatten-Windsor surname, which either does or does not have a hyphen. And it's all about the Queen and her relationship with her husband, who wanted to preserve his family name in the royal family. It's a little bit complicated, but do your best, Andrew, to explain.
Oh, no, I'll tell you what it is. The not-so-dashing former Prince Andrew, that's what it is. And you're absolutely right. It all came about as Prince Philip, and I hopefully at this time in the morning, people spit out their cornflakes. What he complained, he said he was the only man in the country not allowed to give his name to his children, which made him nothing but a bloody amoeba, is what he said. So what it was to introduce, and it's the hyphen. So it's the hyphen about the Mountbatten, and they're suggesting that at the moment when it was published, when the former Prince Andrew, the disgraced prince as a result of it, trying to avoid that scandal, when they announced his name as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, it didn't have the hyphen. And everybody but everybody has the hyphen, including Prince Harry's children and so on and so forth. They have the hyphen to make sure that the Mountbatten name is preserved together with the Windsor. So this is what they're saying now as well. Okay, with this might be the one little thing that Andrew could have. His new name should contain this hyphen because of this historic precedent. And it's all, as you say, a tip to Prince Philip originally. And it was basically a note in 2 weeks before the birth of Andrew in February 1960. Elizabeth, the former queen, she said this is exactly what she wants to do. She wants to make sure that anybody will bear that surname with the hyphen, and that's what she wants accordingly. So that's what people are looking at now, a bit of a reprieve from all the scandal that Andrew's getting. They're throwing him an extra hyphen, as I say, for the not-so-dashing former prince.
Yeah, we're certainly getting down into the detail of the series of his removal of honours and titles. And finally, from the royal family to the papacy, Pope Leo has revealed his 4 favourite films. Now, they're pretty wide-ranging, from musicals to drama. And number 1 is Die Hard. No, just kidding. It's the 1946 feel-good Christmas classic, A Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Well, who are you? I told you, George, I'm your guardian angel.
What is it you want, Barry? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Good choice. Also on the list, Robert Redford's Ordinary People, The Sound of Music, the comedy drama Life is Beautiful. Is this all about sort of a new era of transparency for the papacy?
Oh, I think it's wonderful, isn't it, when you can personalise the pontiff. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a fantastic movie, the 1946 Frank Capra feel-good movie, and it's wonderful to hear you play that. It was an unsurprising choice for the 70-year-old man of God who grew up in 1950s Chicago in a world not too far removed from Capra's New York. As you also say, Ordinary People is on that list, and he's also got The Sound of Music. Everybody loves The Sound of Music. And Life is Beautiful, the Robert Benigni's 1997 comedy drama about a father and son surviving a Nazi death camp. It's basically a bit of light and shade on that sort of stuff. But finally, the one that he was recommended to look at just before he entered the Vatican to elect him Pope, he said, are you ready for this? Did you watch the movie Conclave so you know how to behave? I think some great advice there. He will be welcoming the great and good from Hollywood to see how they can do more together. So Kate Blanchett's coming along, Chris Pine, Alison Brie, David Franco, and a few others, as well as directors Spike Lee, George Miller, and Gus Van Sant. They're going to be going there to go and meet the Pope and see what can happen to make sure that they can deepen the dialogue with the world of cinema, exploring the possibilities that artistic creativity offers to the mission of the church and the promotion of human values.
Great stuff, Andrew. Thank you very much indeed. That's Andrew Eborn, the barrister, broadcaster, and futurist. Triple threat.
Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. This is Times Radio.